the biggest salamander I've ever seen. Idea. Big one. He got a wild one, crikey. Crikey. Stuff. Have you? Huh? Put to life. As I was saying there in the text, this maple is punky in certain areas of the wood, and then other areas are very hard to split and solid. But this was a huge maple tree. Came from my uncle's home, and the tree service that I used to get the wood from, he was the one that cut it down, and then I went over there and loaded up on my trailer. I think I ended up loading maybe 2 or 3 trailer loads Actually, maybe 4 trailer loads of that on a tandem axle trailer. So there was a lot of wood. It's the biggest maple I think I've ever seen in person. I was talking to my dad the other day about some sycamore I had split, and just telling him that it was the hardest thing I've ever hand split sycamore. And he was saying something that I agree with. He said once it's seasoned, it splits a lot easier. And I remember a big load that I got from the tree service of sycamore, and very heavy stuff, every bit as heavy as oak, and much harder to split than oak. But I got it home, and I mean, I bounced my monster maul and my axe off of a piece of limb wood from the sycamore. It was that bad, and so you can see why they would use the stuff as butcher blocks. So I loaded it all back up on my trailer, and took that wood out into the woods on the side of the road somewhere on a country road, and dumped it there. And then a year later, I remembered it and went back and got it. And sure enough, it split so much easier after that. I split, if I'm not mistaken, every bit of it and sold it. But after a year of seasoning, it was so much easier to split. Now, when it was green, though, it was something I've noticed, like with this right here, this maple. If I've noticed, if maple is real gnarly and twisted, your axe will kind of, it's like it absorbs your axe. So your axe sinks down into it, but it's like it just absorbs it, kind of like elm. Elm did the same thing to me. I mean, I would hit it again and again, and the axe would penetrate the wood and go down in it pretty deep. But it was like it wasn't having any effect to split it. I mean, of course it did after so long, but I mean, maple or elm is the worst I've ever seen that I've done personally, that I've ever hand split, that absorbs the blow, but somehow it's like the impact doesn't affect it. Now, as far as sycamore went, it didn't absorb the blow, it just bounced off of it. Literally, it's like the surface of it is just that tough, and I guess the grain down in it too when it's green. But I mean, it is some bad stuff to split when it's green. It really is the worst I've ever done to date, without a doubt. Elm was horrible, but not as bad as sycamore. Sycamore was even worse. Something I do use a chopping block for is kindling. If you put a round of wood on the ground, it's got quite a big surface, so it's when you hit that, it's not going to sink, unless, as I've heard other people say, maybe it's really soft ground or something. But I still prefer splitting on the ground. But now when it's kindling, just a little piece of kindling, if you were to do that on the ground, that's going to sink in the ground, without a doubt. It doesn't have much surface material, so it's going to sink. So it definitely makes sense to use a chopping block for kindling. My dad was telling me the other day too how that one of our cousins had cut his fingers off with a log splitter. So that's something you got to be really careful with too if you're using one of those. I seen in someone else's video where someone was talking about how dangerous it is to use an axe, and that it would be safer with a log splitter. But yeah, our cousin, he actually cut his fingers off with a log splitter. So as I was mentioning in that video, I think it's who's wielding the tool, but anybody can get hurt. Something else I've noticed too from my own personal experience, when you get into bigger rounds, they're just so much harder. I mean, this tree here was around 5 feet wide. I'm not exaggerating that. A lot of these rounds here are cut in half. So they ripped them with their chainsaws in half. So this tree literally was around 5 feet wide. I'm not exaggerating when I say it's the biggest maple I've seen in my life, I believe. And it came from my uncle's property. And it just seems like when they get that big, the trees, it's like the grain itself and everything, and the fibers of the wood just get so much stronger. It really seems that way to me. Like the bigger and the older the trees get, it seems like they're stronger to me, and that makes sense because, they've got more material to have to hold up and everything, when they're that big. So it makes sense that they would get stronger as long as they're not rotten. I think the bigger they are, the stronger they are. I've noticed that with every big, huge round I've done, the ones that I call behemoths, the huge ones. I mean, like maybe 3 feet plus, 4 feet, 5 feet. It just seems, oh man, there's something different about them. Even when you quarter them down, they're still hard to split. Like this, some of this elm here. Later on, you'll see me get a wedge that I got from my uncle, and it's the first time I've ever used a splitting wedge to date, and it actually worked pretty good. And but I was able to get them down to smaller chunks, and still, even the smaller chunks, it was just hard to split. It's like the grain and the fibers in it just so much stronger when it's big like that. It really makes for some hard hand splitting. It really does. I've split a lot of different sizes of wood, from down to limb wood all the way up to 5 feet wide sections, or I've tried anyways, and I have split some of them, but it's much harder. Much harder. And as you can see, that first limb I did there was real punky stuff. What I'm trying to do here is clean up the yard a little bit too. There was a man telling me that wedges made it easier on the bigger rounds, and I've heard other people say that a lot. I've just never really tried one, but anybody that has experience with the wedges, if you don't mind, comment, let me know. Is it better to use them on the edge of the round, or should you put it in the middle? And then I'm sure it's better to have more than one wedge as well, because the wedge that I was using, as you'll see here later, I buried it pretty much and couldn't even get to it anymore hardly, and the wood still wasn't split at one point. So I'm guessing, when something like that happens, you just put another wedge in and drive it in as well. But I'm very surprised with how well they worked. I think this was the first time I've ever used a splitting wedge. Pretty happy with it, and it made me curious really to try out. I've seen some videos where they look like they work. But yeah, here in a little bit you'll see me go and get that wedge. And as I said, it's the first time I think I've ever used a splitting wedge. And it worked. It worked actually pretty well, and I've seen some videos of other ones that seem to work very well. So that's something in the future I may very well do, is because and when you get into them just huge rounds of hardwood, it just, the grain and stuff, even when you quarter them down, it just seems to be extremely hard to split.
My heart rate's not up too much right now.
The grain and the fibers are just so tough.
Good day.
But this wood here, I'm not going to be selling any of this. This is just for my personal use and to get the yard cleaned up. This wood I got actually about 2 years ago from my uncle's whenever that tree service cut it down. So it's been sitting for about 2 years now. So that's why you see some of it's punky, kind of, some of it's rotting a little bit, and then there's some that's still good to burn. This is something I've just put off time, really, getting these rounds taken care of, just because I knew they were so hard to split. So I just let them sit there for a long time. And I do sell maple firewood, though. I mean, from what I understand, maple's supposed to be some pretty good wood. It doesn't burn as long as oak or anything like that, but still supposed to be some pretty good firewood. But as I said, I'll just be using this stuff for myself, and a big part of it was just to try to get it I've got a shed that I'm cleaning out today, and then organizing, and I'll be making a video on that as well. And so I'm kind of just doing some cleanup right now, really. And these are something that I've put off for the last couple of years, really. So they've been sitting there, for 2 years. And it was not easy loading these things on the trailer either. The trailer definitely helped because it had the ramp on it, but it still was not easy to load these big, huge behemoths. But the worst one I ever did before was from the tree service. He had cut down this oak one time, and it was probably 3 to 3.5 feet wide, and he left it in sections of probably 2.5 feet to 3 feet tall. I mean, that's what he cut it for me. I guess he was just trying to get in there quick as he could and get out. And so he cut it in sections that were like 2.5, and he knew, that I was coming to get it. Because he asked me on the phone, he said, "Are you got anybody to help you get this?" And I said, "No, it's just me." And he said, "You might want to get you some help." But really, he should have just cut it in sections that were manageable. And that's why I don't deal with them anymore. And I have nothing against the guy other than that, nothing against him personally. I don't like that he did that knowing that I had to get that wood. Even if I had a helper, we're rolling up 300 plus pounds of oak on a trailer. It's not easy to do. So there's been times in the past where I've struggled getting wood, without a doubt. I mean, it's been some hard situations, pushing huge rounds up hills and then pushing them up trailer gates and stuff like that. So a winch or something like that would be very handy. I'm still trying to figure out really what would be the best setup to do that. But really, my preferred method and the most efficient and easiest way is to find logged out land. And I had another man here recently tell me that he had 30 acres logged out. Was asking if I was interested in helping him get it cleaned up, and I told him yes. So 30 acres is a lot of land too to be logged out. That's no time. That's a good year or two supply of wood, probably. At least a year, probably longer. It just depends on how much is there and everything, and how much he actually had logged out. So. Yeah, I'm excited about going there. I want to do it in the smartest, most efficient way that I can, and also the way that, I'm able to make the most money. I don't want to have to drive really far away to get the wood and then have to fell the trees and everything else. It just takes so much longer. I like the logged out land. They're already down. Where I'm at now, getting it, they're already seasoned. So. Hopefully this, I don't know if he's just had this logged out or what. If so, I'll probably still go there and just go ahead and buck it up and split it and let it sit if I have to till next year. And just keep getting from where I'm getting it now. I've got enough for this year and next, at least from where I'm at now. Probably longer than that, even, to be honest with you. I've not even explored half of that land myself out there, not even close. So I really don't even know exactly the extent of how many there is, but I know where I go and what I have seen. There's oak trees laying all over the place, and poplars as well. So I've got a lot of wood still right now, so I'm glad about that. And find sources quite a bit. I was telling a guy the other day there was it was on Craigslist, I think, but they've been doing it now for the last couple of years. I remember last year talking to him about it. But you pull out there, and you got to have a trailer, though, and not a truck. You have to have a trailer, and they load the wood up for you and everything. And I think it's just cutting logs, but they load it up with their own equipment and everything. All you got to do is pull in there, and they load your trailer up for you, and you take it on. So that's a good way to get it right there, Tree service, to me, is probably one of the less efficient ways that I've done it, to be honest, because you've got to go out to them, and then you've got to load the big heavy stuff up, and then you've got to bring it home, then you've got to split it, then you've got to load it back up. And when I go out to the log land, I don't have to handle the wood that much. I go out there, I buck it, I split it, I load it, and I take it on. I hate handling the wood any more than I have to be honest with you. So for me, like, if I ever had wood at home, I would probably rather have it delivered, but at the same time, if it's not worth doing that, I wouldn't want to do that either, because I think I've looked on that before, how much, it cost, and it's not worth it at all, really, from what I've seen, anyways, to have a big logging truck deliver them to you, and for the amount that you get. But then I could be wrong on that too, and prices are different places. But with prices the way they are right now and everything too, I would imagine it would be extremely expensive. So I really like to log that land. It's my favorite method and the easiest, most efficient, and the most profitable that I've found is finding some good logged out land and getting along well with the owner, whoever it is. The guy that I get it from, he's a very laid back man, very friendly. But he's my tax professional, the guy that files my taxes for me, and he told me to come in and out anytime I want, and that's what I do, and I try to be respectful and stuff. He's usually gone every time I go there. He's gone to work, but sometimes when I'm leaving, if I'm leaving in the evening or whatever, I'll see his vehicle there. Very friendly guy. I mean, it's helped me out so much. Him telling me about that, and all it was when he was filing my taxes. He saw that I did firewood as well as landscaping, and he said, "Oh, you do firewood? I've got some land that I just had logged out, and this has been 3 years ago, I think, right at it, and probably 2.5 years ago, something like that."
Use the axe.
He asked me if I was
Make
interested
a little
in getting
divot right
some of the
there.
wood.
Slot for it to go.
I said, yeah, I'm definitely interested. He told me that they were mainly oaks, so yeah, I was very interested. And it's been a great source. It's been an awesome source. Before that, I was getting it from the tree services, and not only the tree services, the cattle farm too. That was huge for me. The cattle farm for my first 2 years is a big part of how I got it. The main part of how I got it. I got it from tree services and stacked it. And but the cattle farm, it was a great source too, because he had trees down too, and then some of them might have to fail. They were dead standing locusts. Very good firewood, great firewood. I had people requesting that stuff. Very dry, solid stuff. Burns for a long time. Burns hot. Locust is great firewood. So that's mainly what my first year and my second year, I think.
Just getting it done.
That's what I did mainly was the cattle farm, which I was getting it from the tree service at the same time.
How good that's doing.
And then my third and fourth year, which is this year. Actually, my second year, I think, too, near the end of the second year of me doing firewood is when it's when he told me about his land. And so I think the end of my second year is when the logged out land, is when I began to get it from him as well. So, because this is my third year getting it from the logged out land. So, yeah. And this is my fourth year doing firewood. So, there are sources out there. You just have to look. And it's very important. You're going to do it full time like I am. You need a good source of the wood. Some guys I understand doing it on the side, but I'm doing it as a main source of income, and my wife's a stay-at-home mother. With that being said, the income is my responsibility, and that's the way I prefer it, because I love my wife being with my children, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I wouldn't want them at a daycare being watched by people that I don't know, and I'm not saying anything against people that do that. But me personally, I would never want that. I love my wife watching them. I love the time that she gets to spend with them and teach them certain things. It's precious time that only comes once. So I'm very glad that I'm able to provide, and plan to. Hopefully, this YouTube will maybe help out a little bit as well with that. And not only for providing for me, I've got a lot of plans for the future. I know a lot of people do, but I intend to make them happen. I intend to do my best to make those plans, to make them happen. And one of those things being, I talked to my wife before about maybe in the future trying to open some sort of homeless shelter, because there's just so many people that need help right now. I even have family members that need help with things similar to that. So, but I would like to have a program that helps them, not only gives them a place to stay, houses them, but actually a program to help them get on their feet and help them to help them stay on their feet. But coming to the end of the video here. I appreciate everybody that's watching. I appreciate the support, all of the positivity and the kind words. I appreciate it so much. And to everybody that subscribed and comments and everything, it means a whole lot to me.